Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this morning on Microsoft Teams. So just a quick introduction to who we are for those who are new to ADM today. We're a Microsoft Gold partner based down in Kent, cover primarily London and the South East, but of course with cloud computing and modern technologies, that reach is increasing all the time. We've now got customers all across the country. Got a good number of gold accreditations, 11 now, including the most recent, security. We're very proud of those, and to achieve those accreditations, it's not just sending some staff on some courses. We very much have to live and breathe the various technologies in these platforms. So, we have to actually be deploying a certain amount of these alongside of our technical competencies to actually hold this accreditation. So we're very proud of those. We're also a very highly rated partner with other industry leading vendors such as Sophos, WatchGuard, and to accompany our vendor accreditations, we are ISO 9001, 14001, 27001, and Cyber Essentials Plus accredited. So covering all of our business processes, our security, what we do, we're right up there and make sure we do everything right. We're 34 years old. And we're about 70 staff now, so about 3/4 of those are in the service and technical delivery teams. We're very heavily weighted in that area as well. Myself this morning as your speaker, I'm Mark Phillip. I'm a Service Account Manager and Advanced Cyber Essentials Practitioner. So what that really means is I spend a lot of my time talking with businesses around the Microsoft Cloud Stack, what it means, what it's all about, some of the benefits they can get from it. And we've got people we deal with who are at all stages of their cloud journey. Some are just very early, testing the water, looking at it, trying to figure out what's there for them. And some people who are a little further down the line have perhaps dipped their toe and got their email into the cloud and certain workloads and are looking to expand and move on from there. So I spend a lot of time working there and speak at a lot of our events as well around the country. And the other side of my work is all security. So I'm an advanced cyber essentials practitioner. I work with businesses to help them through the government's cyber essentials security compliance standards. So audit them and figure out where they're at currently against standard and help them actually get through it. And of course, we're talking about cloud technologies and looking at what's right for businesses and how we move to these modern technologies. Of course, security is a fundamental part of that. So the two halves of my role come together there beautifully. What are we here to talk about today? It's all about Microsoft Teams. So we've got a lot to get through in the next half hour. There is the Q&A box there. Do feel free to fire questions into that as we go through. If we get time at the end, I'll try and get to some. But what we will do as a follow-up to this anyway is write up a blog post. So if we get any questions, we'll pop responses to those and any pertinent information as well into the feedback. So that'll come out after the event as well. I'm going to run through just very quickly what Microsoft are all about at the moment, what their mission is and what Teams is as well, just very high level. Give you a quick update on Skype for Business Online and where that sits currently in relation to Teams and as a product. And I do want to talk about a little bit about security and compliance. So that, this is the thing, we should start here and then move into using the different parts of the platform. So important. And then we'll get into the really cool stuff. Teams itself, looking at the collaboration tools, how we can collaborate internally in our business, how we can look at collaborating with people outside of our business, but also we're talking about different apps and how we can integrate other things into Teams as well. Going to look at the calling and meeting options in Teams, touch into those as well, so you can see how that helps on the collaboration front. And also we'll just come back to Skype for Business and talk about how we can transition from that to Teams, but more on that, that'll come clearer shortly. A little bit of a coming soon. There's so much going on in Teams at the moment. I do just want to talk briefly about some of the new features that are on their way as well, just so you give an idea of where Microsoft are going with the platform. So Microsoft's mission, which has been stated for several years now, is to empower every person, every organization on the planet to achieve more. And really, actually, this isn't just some lofty mission statement that, very corporatized or anything like that. It really actually is underpinning Microsoft culture, what they do as a business, how they act. And we're seeing it through the product sets as well. And Teams really does embody that. And so really, what is Teams itself? And Teams is, at its heart, a chat-centered workspace. And we're going to go into some of these options a little more shortly. It's all around collaboration, without a doubt. That's Teams at its heart. It's a collaboration platform. And but what we also now need to think of is not just about using Teams on its own. we have to start thinking now. Teams is part of Office 365 and Microsoft 365. So I want you to try and get this thought of better together in your head. So it's about Teams being used not only on its own, but with the other parts of 365 and other applications as well. So it's about bringing in things like SharePoint, it's Teams and Power Automate and the Power Platform, it's Teams and OneNote, all the different areas all come together to make this collaboration experience for us. So this better together is absolutely where the platform is going. We'll see a little bit of that later on as well. As I mentioned in the agenda, it's got heavy functionality for calling, conferencing, meetings. There's an awful lot it can do there, and we'll see a little bit of that now. And in fact, actually, we're using those tools to broadcast this webinar today. We're using the live events functionality in Teams to broadcast this webinar to you. So you can see how this is coming from us here at ADM on ADM's Teams. We're broadcasting it to all of you who are not ADM, your external companies. So you've joined in and have access to this. You can see now how we're using Teams already to actually share this content with you. And that's, yeah, very much that external access as well is such a huge part now with Teams. So it's just that collaboration with whoever you need to collaborate with. Teams is also there for your frontline workers, and there's a feature called Shifts. It's all around shift management, your staff can manage their shifts there, they can request shift changes. There's a whole scheduling piece there in Teams as well. There is also even a free version. So if you haven't got Teams yet, you can actually try it for free. There's some limitations, because it's not plumbed into the rest of 365, but it is there as well. But if you have got 365, Microsoft 365 or Office 365, Teams features in most of the main subscription levels. The only ones it doesn't really feature in are the ones which are very specific feature set, like an Exchange Online plan and similar, but all the rest of them it's available in. And it really is coming together now as your single pane of glass. It is where you access all of your files, your collaboration with your colleagues, with other companies, and it is that single place to go. In fact, myself now, in the morning I get in, I open Teams and I open Outlook. And Outlook, I'll come to that a little later as well. Email's not going anywhere, but the way we use it is changing. But those are the two things I open first of all in the morning. And then I start from there and I go on. Now, on from that, we've got all these great tools, but a fundamental part of Microsoft 365 is that it is what we call a modern workplace. And it's this concept of work is what you do, not necessarily where you are. So through Microsoft 365, through Teams, we have access to our data and our applications anywhere. But most importantly, and I will shamelessly bang this drum, securely. There is full security built in. I'll touch on a bit more of that shortly. Fully supported across Windows, Android and iOS. And of course, who'd have thought a few years ago that this would happen, that we're seeing Microsoft fully embracing other operating systems. But this has been part of this culture shift that I mentioned earlier, that it's very much now Microsoft want you to have access to these great tools. They want you to have access to your data, to your colleagues, to the people you work with. And they recognize that you may do that on an Android phone, you may do that on an iPhone, it might be on a Windows laptop. I'm on a Surface Pro today, and it's about supporting across that. And in fact, actually due out later this year, Microsoft have actually got a Surface device coming out. They've got two new devices, the Duo and the Neo. So they're coming up with a new version of Windows 10. We've got Windows 10X, and we've also got an Android platform running there as well. So it shows where Microsoft themselves are going with those new devices. So hopefully that sets the scene a little bit for where Teams sits. I'm going to run through a little more in depth on some of the features shortly. But one thing I do just want to touch into is Skype for Business Online. So if you're using Skype for Business Online, key date that you need to be aware of is Skype for Business Online is ending its support in July 2021. So we're a little under 18 months out for that now. So it's over the last sort of year or so, Microsoft have been bringing all the functionality from Skype for Business Online into Teams. And the writing really was on the wall for a while, but Microsoft kept saying, no, we encourage you to look at Teams. If you're looking for calling a meeting, look at Teams. They didn't actually release a date. And last summer, they did actually bring this out. They said, no, Skype for Business Online is now only because Teams now does everything that Skype can. Now, the slight complication that is Skype for Business on-premise is still continuing. Server 2019 was released last year, and that's of course supported well into the 2020s. So on-premise is still continuing. But for our Microsoft 365 platforms, the online platform, Skype for Business Online, ending July 21. So we've got a bit of time to plan, but we do need to think about it now. So if you are using Skype for Business Online now, do start thinking about it. Do start looking at Teams as the replacement. And there's various ways, and I'll talk a little more about that migration later on. But do start looking at Teams now, absolutely. And that way, it's not going to come as a mad rush, and those surprises. You've got a chance for a smooth transition over. And I mentioned security as well, and I could talk all day just on security, as you can probably well imagine. The 365 platform has so much security built in through the various tools across the platform. And we're going beyond Teams here. We're looking at things like the baked-in tools in Microsoft 365, in Windows 10. We also have the Enterprise Mobility and Security modules, EM&S, which bring even more security to our data, to our users and our devices. And we run various other sessions on those as well. So we can always come and talk separately on that sort of front. Just a couple of key things just to make you aware of. I want to try and get into some of the cool stuff in Teams today, but just to set the scene, give you some food for thought. If you're looking at the Microsoft Cloud Platform, and perhaps you're at the earlier stages of looking at that, then there is a website, the Microsoft Trust Center. That is your go-to place. That is Microsoft's privacy policies. It's their compliance standards. It shows you what security the platform adheres to. Everything is in there. It's a global website across the whole of Microsoft Cloud Services. So it's Microsoft 365, it's Azure, it's everything. So there's an awful lot of data in there. So if you're doing your due diligence, that is your go-to place. If you are actually set up and running, so you're now starting to use 365 and you've got it set up, to whatever degree, then the security and compliance centers for administrators, key places to be as well. There's a lot of options in there, and a fundamental part of that is something called Secure Score, and that's one I would recommend you check out if you haven't already. So Secure Score looks at your whole 365 tenant and gives you a security rating based on what you do or don't have enabled. It also gives you suggestions to say that actually here's some things you can, and here's functionality you can enable to make it more secure. So it is something I would say do look at. Don't just go switching everything on, because the chances are at the end of the day something may stop working that you're not expecting. So caution, but absolutely worth working through. We've been going through it ourselves over the last year. We've got a very high score here at ADM, one of the highest sort of globally possible. When you look at the metrics of what the averages are, and it took us a bit of work. There's certain things you can switch on that are fairly straightforward and no one will really notice, and there's other things that are absolutely worth doing, but you need to just make sure that there's not really a knock-on effect, as with any kind of system implementation. So do check out Secure Score as well as that Trust Center. Very good points, very good resources there. But we're here to talk about Teams today, and let's start looking at, first of all, some of the collaboration functionality, the core functionality of Teams. So here we are, here's Teams, finally got over to it. And there's one feature here which I want to talk to you about quickly. It's called the left rail, highlighted in red there. The left rail is our go-to menu for accessing the different areas of Teams. And that's one area that we're actually seeing developed as well. We're getting more things going in there, just so it becomes this really easy place to get to our core apps. That I'm now looking at our teams. These are the teams that I'm joined to. So Teams is all about permissions, as the rest of 365 is. So if I am added to a team, I have access to it. If I'm not added to it, and if the team isn't set as public, then I can't even see it. I can't even try and get to it. So when we're talking about permissions and we're talking about privileges, only having access to what you legitimately should have access to, then that is all fully supported. Again, is a key part of this. So I have access to the teams that are related to the work I'm on. And these could be organizational teams like the sales team or the operations team, but it could be quite often teams around a particular project, so which is where a lot of mine sits. So you can see there, I've got things like Cyber Essentials. I've also got more informational based ones like our cloud update that I'm going to go into in a moment. So the teams, it's not just a team as in, you say, finance, HR, etc. It's a group of people working together for a reason. So we access our teams list here. When we're into our team, then we then have various different channels. So as you can see down the left there, the highlighted team I've got is my cloud services update. So this is an informational team across ADM. It's for us sharing new features and new information. You can imagine we're 70 staff. We've got a lot of different people with different specialisms and picking up. There's so much information out there, even just from Microsoft. So we're all picking this up. So we need someone to feed it in centrally, and that's why we use this team. So we have our general tab, which is for anything that doesn't really fit in any of the other classifications. We've got one for Exchange Online, Hyper-V, SharePoint, and we've got some others as well. Once we're into our team, then we have the different tabs for this team. So we start off, as we are here, with our conversation. This is our chat-based interaction. So we can put content in, we can share links, we can share imagery, all of that we share into this, and then people can reply on those threads. We can then tag people into it to highlight to them that, hey, there's something here that either I need a comment from or is of relevance to you. So we have ways of prioritizing those messages. We can also link across to other things as well. So the files I'll come to, we could link to things like OneNote, to particular websites, to SharePoint, to Power BI, all the other areas of 365 and other apps as well. And we have all of those from this top bar here. We then move on one step again, so we can actually share files in our team, and Teams has a SharePoint backend as much as 365. So this files area here is our team, our channel file area for, in this case, Cloud Services Update in general. So we've got various files that we've shared in here, and these are ones, because of the type of content, this is all general information for the staff at ADM. So we've got things like how to configure EMS, some of the guides we've been working on internally, using multi-factor authentication, and I think all different guides for engineers, because of course we've got more senior engineers, we've got apprentices, we've got the whole spread. So everything's all documented so that we can then make sure we follow that best practice all the time. We can share that knowledge amongst the team. So we have that. Now, a key part here is these files don't just sit here to be read. This is start where our collaboration, we're collaborating through our chat. We can now collaborate through the files. So if we wanted to work together on these files, then anyone who has access to this team can open these files and we can work together and edit them. And because they've come from a 365 location, i.e. Teams in this case, we can actually edit them together. So we can both work on this Word document at the same time. None of this, the documents lock read only that we've had in the past in on-premise computing, then no, that's all gone. Days gone by. It's now very much we can work on the files together, live, and collaborate together. And we use them a lot for our products, and particularly our security engagements, when myself and our other practitioners may actually be working on reports together. So we'll be doing different areas of the reports, so we can actually work together live on that. Now, I mentioned that it's all permissions, so we can add members of different members to the team itself. So it's a really straightforward process. I can add members into the team, and equally I can also add external users in. I touched into this earlier. So I just add someone's email address, whether it's internal or external. So if they're external, they become a guest on your Azure Active Directory, and we can bring them into this team, but they only see the team you've added them to. They don't even need a 365 license. They'll get an email with a link to the team, they can log in, and they can even go in through the web client. So Teams has a web version, and they log in through that using their email address and a password they set up. And it's as simple as that, and they then have access. So we're extending that collaboration out way beyond just internally. We can extend it out to our partners, customers as well. And say we use it here, we work with customers on projects, we will have them in Teams and talk in there as a team, and with people such as Microsoft as well. So that's looking very briefly at our team environment in Teams. The other side of our chat, and that's our more formal chat, but the other side as well, we have our more informal chat, our one-to-one or our small group chat. So this is where I may want to talk individually to a specific person. So for example, here I'm chatting with John. directly to John, we were working up a security session we were running. We were doing the presentation and we were doing a knowledge check on that, and we used Microsoft Forms for that, a questionnaire-based tool. So we actually worked together in teams. We were chatting. We weren't working in the same location. We were in completely different sites. So we were able to work together, and we saw forms together, and we saw the files, and we had that chat. So that's right. We can talk directly there. We could even, if we wanted to, directly from that chat, from a teams to teams basis, have a video call using the video technology we're using today, or we could even just have it as a voice call straight through Teams. And that could have been Teams on our laptop or even Teams through our phone. I mentioned Android earlier. I've got Teams app on my phone. So quite frequently, if I'm out and about, particularly in London, I'll go to a coffee shop, put some earphones in and quietly sit in the corner and jump on calls or make calls through Teams. So we can do all of that direct chat. We can also have small group chats. So you may have a chat that is between a couple of different colleagues, but you don't really want to set up a whole new team. It's not really appropriate. So we can actually set up this small group chat. So we can actually have 2 or 3 people in this chat, have conversation about that content you need, and that's it, done with. Now, I mentioned that we're bringing into the Teams different areas of 365, but absolutely, there's more and more integration available with third-party apps as well, outside Microsoft. I've just put a screenshot there from some of the options there. There's many, many more beyond that. And there's increasing now ecosystem of third-party apps and apps being built for Teams and 365. So it becomes a single pane of glass. You can get to everything you need to get to via Teams. I'll say it again, it's all about it's better together, bringing everything together. So Teams with SharePoint, Teams with Forms, with OneNote, etc. So moving on, I'm going through fairly quickly. We've got just want to try and give you a taster of what Teams is all about today. And do come back to us afterwards if you want to talk more. We can go a lot more in depth with you. But moving on now to the calling a meeting, I mentioned there that we can make Teams to Teams calls directly through the app to another person in Teams who's using it. We're using the live events broadcast today, and you can see how I'm using video. I'm actually sharing my screen to share this presentation with you, and you're all coming in external of ADM into this webinar to actually see this. But we can also use Teams beyond that. That's all talking about using the Teams tools and the calling tools within Teams. We can actually use Teams as our actual phone system. Now, this is an add-on license, so we need to have the phone system add-ons or be on the appropriate license level. But if we've got that, we can actually set up Teams so we can make phone calls via a traditional phone number out through Teams or receive calls into Teams. And we use this at ADM. So when you dial us on our Canterbury numbers, it surfaces through Teams. So when I'm working in London and I get a phone call, I answer it. You don't know if I'm in Canterbury or London. So we can. It's a really clean, simple interface. There's even some more work being done to actually make some of this a little better. I'll come on to that shortly. Yeah, we can actually use this to make our what are called traditional phone calls as well. When we're talking about meetings, you're seeing some of the meeting experience here today via the live events, and that's very much the broadcast side of the meetings functionality. But we can actually schedule meetings as well. You've got a calendar invite for this. We can actually do that via Outlook. So for your end users, if you're used to scheduling meetings and managing your diary in Outlook, that diary now syncs fully with Teams. There's a calendar function. When we're actually setting up our meetings, if you're used to doing it Outlook, you still can. There's a Join Teams Meeting button. And so we set up our calendar invite, it pops the link in there, and that sets up for a Teams meeting. And when we save it, it will go across to Teams as well. So here's what I say, this better together, Teams plus Outlook, it's integrating the calendars, it's becoming this seamless experience. We can also schedule meetings directly in Teams as well. Now, once we've got our meeting, we're all in our meeting, we've put video on, so we're having that richer experience. Then we also have some extra tools as well. So as you can see today, I'm sharing my content, I'm sharing my screen, I'm doing video with you. What we can also do with Teams, in any of the video views, is we can actually blur our background. So it may be you're in an environment where it may not be appropriate to see the background. You may be out in perhaps a customer site or maybe a coffee shop somewhere or working at home. You don't want that background to be really visible. we can blur it. So if you may have seen that went viral, I think it was last year, that video, the person being interviewed for BBC News at home, and his child crawled across the floor. There was mum frantically trying to get the child. Yeah, again, this could have helped this because it really zooms in on the person closest to the camera. So anything too far back, and it actually does, it would blur me out as well. We're seeing the sharing options already. I'm sharing this PowerPoint, but it's not just a particular screen. We can share either a screen or a particular piece of content. And so that changes depending on the meeting. Sometimes I will actually be in a meeting and I do have multiple screens on my desk. So I may have one screen as my sharing screen. So whatever I share goes into that. So whatever's on that screen goes into the share. Sometimes, as today, I'll do a specific application, which is my PowerPoint today. So we have various options available to us to put the right content into that meeting. Now on the meeting fronts as well and the calling fronts, I'm using my Surface Pro today, and but we can also use traditional phone systems. There's various meeting systems available as well, so we can have full Teams meeting rooms, so that we can have that full collaborative experience. We can use the Surface Hubs, we can use smart boards, we can use the various cameras. So there's a wide range now of partners on the market who are doing Teams, who are making Teams certified devices, from the handset on your desk through to full-blown room systems. There's a wide range out there, and equally you can use your laptops now, as I'm using Surface Pro today. So it really can get that immersive experience that's right for your users, right for your business, right for the situation. There's a huge range out there. I even use, I've got some earbuds. I use those with the Teams app. They're not certified, I will say it now, but even that works on my phone. So I even use that when I'm out and about. So it's really a rich experience available. So moving on, I touched into this earlier, and we're talking about calling if you're using Skype for Business Online. As I mentioned, Skype for Business Online finishes July 2021. Microsoft will drop support. It's fully supported up until that point, though. And the migration path, we're talking really on the calling elements of things here, will vary depending on the type of solution you're using now. So I mean, if you're not using Skype for Business Online, then just go straight to Teams. If you are using Skype for Business Online or on-prem, and you need to come off that older platform, then there's various things we can do. So there are various modes available, or islands, and we can actually, there's different kind of graduated functionality we can set. So I could have Teams only, which means I get everything through Teams, my instant messages, my calls, the whole lot. We could have it so that actually my calling was running still through Skype for Business, but it may be that actually I'm using Teams for the team environment. So there's different ways we can do it. Again, dependent really on your current setup and how you're using those platforms. And that's something that's kind of the next conversation on. Don't really go too much into that today, but we can very much do it as that graduated to bring you across, very much so. Just to give you a little look beyond what we've spoken about today, I could talk all day on Teams. As you can probably imagine, we've shown so much already, but it's barely touched the surface. There are a lot more things we can do. And just to call out a few of those for you today, I mentioned that we can have whole meeting rooms. We've got various partners making Teams certified devices. So we can actually have content cameras and intelligent capture. So this is where, if we've got the right camera set up, I could even be in a meeting room with a traditional paper drawing board or whiteboard, writing on that. And if the camera's pointed to that board, what it'll do is ghost me out. So if I'm stood in front of it physically and writing on the board, it'll ghost me out so that it doesn't, I'm not standing in the way of the content that's on that whiteboard, and that can then get shared into that meeting. Meeting recording is available, so we can record our meetings. We're using that today to record this webinar, and we will put it up live via our YouTube channel later on. There'll be a notification that that's gone up. Secure private channels. I spoke about how anyone in the team can see the channels in that team. There may be occasions where actually you need to have a channel which is slightly more restrictive, and we can do that. I mentioned our left rail, how that's our hub for all the different areas of Teams, our different apps, our core apps. So what we can now do, we've got greater control over what shows there. We can actually pin additional apps to that left rail to really customize it and get all of our apps where we need them, kind of our new shortcuts. There's more priority notifications, so we can actually now focus the content. A difficulty with email, historic and Outlook, is where it's become very bloated, is you could come back from a meeting, 20 or 30 or more emails, and how do you prioritize? How do you figure out what is the things you've got to look at straight away? So with Teams, we can actually put put priority notifications in. So when I sit down at Teams, I can see the most urgent things, the things I need to jump on, and that's what I look at first. And if I've got time, then I'll move on to my other announcements. Read receipts, so we can see how people have, when people have actually read our messages, in common with a lot of modern chat apps. Announcements, so in a channel I can actually put an announcement up. It puts greater emphasis. We can have an image and a banner, so it puts greater emphasis on whatever it is you're quite literally announcing into that channel. Very, very new. We can now send content from Teams through to Outlook and an email. So if we have some content, we think that's really useful. I actually need to email that to someone because we need to take it out of the Teams environment. If that's right, then we can actually do that. And I mentioned shifts as well. I've not had time for that today, but shifts for scheduling, particularly frontline workers, helping them manage their shifts dynamically, arrange shift swaps, all that sorts of thing. That's just some of the other things we can do. Just to give you a snapshot of what's coming. And so much on the roadmap as well. Just a few things. I talked about blur background. That's live. You can use that now. There is also the ability to have a customized background coming soon. This is all things that are in testing and various stages of development. So we'll be able to inject a fixed background, an image behind me when we're talking, whether that's your office, whether it's your company logo, whether it's a nice beach somewhere, but it's up to you. More on live captions and subtitles. Accessibility is so huge for Microsoft. We've not really touched into that today, but there's a lot more tools around live captioning for meetings going in. Being able to post across channels. At the moment, you post to a channel, it's in that channel. There's a lot more coming around being able to post across multiple channels. So if content's right for several directions, then we're going to be able to do that. More channel moderation. There's a lot already, but there's more coming. As part of the frontline worker tools, the ability to use Teams almost like a walkie-talkie through your mobile app. That's coming. And the next one, apologies, that's actually slightly wrong, but actually to send content from Outlook into Teams. We can do it now, but it's a slightly convoluted process of getting the email address of the channel, copying it to Outlook. There's going to be a button coming where we'll send that content straight from Outlook into Teams. There's additional Power Automate triggers. We've not spoken about the Power Platform today. Power Automate is where we can start creating workflows and automation. There's additional hooks for Teams coming into that. Education, a huge topic on its own. We run events all on education. There's a massive amount of tools for education there. There's more coming as well. And finally, just one, there's even going to be a Teams for Linux client. And I said this earlier, we've seen this, one of the big shifts from Microsoft. We've seen them embracing other platforms, working with other platforms, because they want to make these tools available where you work, not where they tell you to work. So we're seeing a Teams for Linux client coming as well. And how do you find out more about all these things that are coming soon? I'm talking about there's some key places I would just look at. There's the Microsoft 365 roadmap. It tells you all about the whole platform, not just Teams, but the whole Microsoft 365 platform. It tells you what's coming out, what's being rolled out, what has been rolled out. There's the user voice website, and this is a really good one. If there's discussion in the technical community around certain features, this is where you can put you can vote for features, and Microsoft do listen to this, and they actually do post back on that platform as well. So the user voice, not only for Teams, it is just for the other areas and the other products as well. And do follow us on LinkedIn as well. Myself and ADM, we do both post various updates. I particularly share a lot of things. I follow a lot of people from Microsoft. I try and share a lot of content, and ADM will post various things as well. So do follow us. We do keep up to date that way. But of course, do come to our events. Do talk to us and as well to help keep up to date. So we've gone through an awful lot there today, and I think I've run on time. I'm sorry about that. So what we'll do is we'll review any questions that have come in. We'll post those out as a follow-up. So it just really leaves me there just to say thank you very much for attending. I hope that's given you a snapshot of what Teams is all about. Like I said, it's such a vast platform combined with the rest of the Microsoft 365 that we could talk all day and probably into tomorrow to really try and cover it and probably still not do it justice. So I hope it's given you a flavour for what the platform's about, some of the things it can do, some of the things it will be able to do. If you've got any more questions, do feel free to get in touch with us. And we can always have more of a specific conversation around your challenges, where you think there may be a fit, where this may be a benefit to you, and or even if you've got some challenges in the business, you think I don't really know how we can help with technology, whether it's Teams or the wider Microsoft 365 or Azure or any of that cloud technology, we can have a conversation. So do get in touch on that through our marketing team. And they'll put you onto myself or one of the account managers. We've got various events coming up as well. Go to our website and check out our events page there. Again, all the links are on our LinkedIn page as well. So it just leaves me to say thank you very much for attending. Do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us today. I hope that was useful, and wish you a great rest of the day. Thank you.